Next, we're going to be looking at the organelles that are responsible for movement. Those are cilia in many, many different kinds of cells. And in only one type of cell in the human body, we're going to have a movement organelle called a flagellum, singular, flagella, plural. And so that's what we're going to look at next. A cilium, the plural of that is cilia, is a hair-like extension on the cell surface. And the word cilium in Latin means hair, so that makes sense. Usually it's on the luminal surface or the inside surface of tube-like structures. So the inside of a tube we're going to see over and over again in this course as a lumen, whether it's a big tube like the intestine that I mentioned earlier or a little tube like a blood vessel. So that's called the luminal surface, and that's where we usually see these cilia. And a cilium is responsible for moving material on top of the cell. So the cell stays in place, but the cilium moves and the material moves along with it. So the cell stays in place and the cilium moves and moves the material along with it. A flagellum, and the plural of that is flagella, is a whip-like extension of the cell surface. And the Latin word flagellum means whip. That's where we get flagellate from, for example. There's usually only one per cell. And in humans, at least the cells that originate from humans, not the visitors that are living on you, which may have flagellae themselves, and things like amoebae and certain kinds of bacteria have a flagellum or even multiple of flagellae. But in humans, the only cell with a flagellum is the sperm cell. So not only are they only found in that one place in human beings, but they're only found in half of the human population. So a flagellum is responsible for moving the cell through the material. So you see the difference here. One is the cell is staying put and the material is moving, and in the other case, the material is staying put essentially and the cell is moving within that material. Now our old friend the microtubule is important in the function of cilia and in the function of flagella. Both cilia and flagella have the same basic structure. And so at their base, they have 9 triplets of microtubules. That's shown here in blue. But as the cilium or the flagellum grows out, and as we get further and further away from the base, as shown here in green, those triplets turn into doublets. And so we have 2 of these tubes running together in what looks in cross-section like a little figure 8. And so those are called microtubule triplets at the base and microtubule doublets in the body of the cilium and the flagellum. The movement of cilia and flagella is slightly different. In a cilium, there's a rowing motion. So there's a power stroke, which is if you've ever canoed or kayaked or used an oar, then in the power stroke, the blade of the oar is pushing water. In the return stroke, you turn the oar or you lift it out of the water so that it glides back to the start and you have less resistance. You also do this in swimming with your hands and your arms using a power stroke and a return stroke. In the flagellum, there's a wave-like or a whipping motion, and so that's what gives the flagellum its name. So it's more like cracking a whip rather than having this power stroke and return stroke like we see in cilia. These are electron micrographs, but they're scanning electron micrographs, so we're looking at the surface of cells. On the left, we see cilia, and on the right, we see a flagellum. I now want to show you a movie, which is one of the coolest scientific movies ever made, if I do say so myself. It's made by a friend of mine by the name of Leanne Triesenberg, now Leanne Powell, since she got married. And she's a medical illustrator that I came into contact with in Mississippi when I was there and did a lot of work with. And I think you'll agree with me that this is just an absolutely fantastic display of what it is that the cilium does. It contains all the information that I've given you in the previous few static slides, but it does it in a just very understandable and in a very elegant and beautiful way.
Billions of cilia line the human respiratory tract. The motion of each cilium is nearly identical and ordered sequentially to create an undulating pattern called a metachronal wave. As extensions of the epithelial cell's surface, cilia are individually powered and move in a coordinated manner to propel mucus and foreign debris across the tissue surface, away from the lungs, through the respiratory tract, to locations where they can be expelled from the body. The stroke cycle of each cilium is nearly identical and consists of a power stroke and a recovery stroke. The power stroke is in the direction of flow. During the power stroke, the cilium is stiff and perpendicular to the tissue surface, creating the greatest force. During the recovery stroke, the cilium relaxes, bends, and swings to the side. This yields the least resistance as the cilium slides into position, ready for the next power stroke. Each cilium is on average 5 micrometers tall and contains an internal skeleton of microtubules arranged in a 9+2 configuration. 9 microtubule doublets composed of an A tubule and a B tubule surround 2 individual central microtubules encased in the central sheath. Several linking structures connect the outer microtubule doublets to the central core of the cilium and to each other. Radial spokes connect each microtubule doublet to the central sheath. Nexon links connect each microtubule doublet to the adjacent doublets. Inner dining arms and outer dining arms also attach adjacent doublets and power the motion of the cilium. Inner dining arms and outer dining arms affix themselves to the A microtubule of one doublet and walk down the length of the B microtubule of the next doublet, pushing the adjacent microtubule doublet tipward and creating a sliding motion. Because the 2 doublets are connected by Nexon links and radial spokes, this sliding motion is translated into a bend. The dining walking action occurs along different sections of each microtubule doublet throughout the stroke cycle. The dining arm activity starts at the base of each microtubule doublet and spreads towards the tip, creating a spiraling pattern. The particular pattern of dining activity along each of the 9 microtubule doublets causes the different characteristics of ciliary motion throughout the stroke cycle. During the power stroke, the cilium is stiff and bends from the base. During the recovery stroke, it bends all along its length to slide underneath the surrounding medium, avoiding resistance. The proper functioning of the lungs, nose, middle ear, and sinuses is dependent on cilia, and ciliary dysfunction may cause a wide range of respiratory problems. Chronic lower respiratory tract infections, chronic rhinitis, sinusitis, and middle ear infections may all be caused by the inability to clear mucus and debris from the respiratory tract.